Past 6 o'clock, I'd like to call this meeting to order pursuant Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording are being made of the meeting. First item, public comment. What do you have for us, Kathy? Come on up.
Citizen of Lee, Massachusetts, but at any rate, a wonderful historical event. Project and the demolition of the first house on West Center Street. That house was occupied by the court. At the Corbett House, and then when many memories there. To print out a picture, I took tons of pictures and videos, but I didn't print anything out or connect. Great when it works and when you know what's going on, but the demolition was wonderful. Absolutely amazing. And he says, oh, and he's watching the equipment. He goes, that's like a dinosaur. And stuff. It was just fantastic. So, with Jeff companies and stuff like that, it was great. On all the drafts and things for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have a site plan review, 345 Spring Street. At you, Matt.
Good evening, folks. Hi, Matt Hunton from SK Design Group, here with a site plan review application, 345. Is one of the applicants, Sally Levy. Is it all right if she comes up to the table here with?
I believe so. I'd be fine with that.
So you can help her. Both involved. I'll talk through the technical stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be questions that
Your
specific
nice to meet
project.
you all.
Now, Buck, can you give me permission to share my screen?
God, okay.
It's usually under
Yes.
participants. Option near the bottom, this is share screen.
Yeah, I make host.
You don't pick the host, because then the problem is, if I close off, then it shuts the whole meeting down.
Yep.
So I'm gonna sneak in here behind.
Yeah, you tell me.
Oh, this is a little bit different than mine.
Yeah, me
So
too.
down
That's
here, you
what
go
I'm
like
saying.
this. And is there anything that says about sharing screen? Is unfortunate. Scroll.
No.
So it's interesting that we have this tiny little pad to try to run the
Yep.
whole
Can we get a
meeting.
bigger menu, Beth, on the screen with the computer? No.
I think that works.
You could make me the host.
That's what we've done in the
Okay,
past.
so then I should kick it back over to you.
Yep,
All right, let's do
yep,
that.
before you close. Yeah,
I
don't.
just wanna make sure I don't screw up anyone.
Is anyone else on?
Gordon's here.
Maybe we should move Matt into the table too, so that he can be seen.
I'm gonna pull it up and then I'll move over.
Okay. I'll get you a chair.
Let me know when you're ready.
we're recording.
Mr. Chairman, since we're recording half an hour or more into the meeting and we have had some discussion, perhaps someone should just summarize for the record what's.
Yes. So yeah, go ahead.
Site plan review application for a parking area essentially associated with the nonprofit educational theater type use, 345 Spring Street. Peter, I know you had some comments about occupancy in numbers, right?
Yeah, and we established before the recording started that the building has a limited occupancy of 49 and you're going to be installing 35 seats. And that was very satisfactory to me because my concern about expansion and the possible impact on parking. And I don't know if other members want to get anything on the record based on the conversations that have happened preceding this.
Just for the record, yes, most of our discussion has been the use as an educational facility. And we were concentrating recently on the parking. Think we've resolved if it maintains as an educational, that it could probably suffice, right, Peter? The current parking?
Yeah, it seems like Matt did a very careful calculation based on the bylaws requirements. But I can tell he's complied fully with our bylaw.
I want to go around the room. Anything else, Peter?
No, I'm in favor of this. I'm really glad that it's going to happen in our town and it's going to add a lot of, be a big help to the sort of cultural improvement that the master plan committee is looking to happen in town.
Dave?
Mike, I'll ask part of my question.
Sure.
Line of sight coming out of the driveway. That property seems to be in a hollow and both sides of the road have hills that dive away so that you won't see the traffic till they're very close.
Okay.
Do you have any ideas for this?
So I didn't study line of sight. I do know as you go to the north, it drops off, right? And that much I recall pretty specifically. I thought to the south it was more level, but I could.
They're very similar.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And it just, my attention, I said,
Okay.
it's not a lot of cars. I'm not
Sure.
saying that it is, but the cars travel at too high of a rate of speed on that street. We need to warn somebody, only when this is happening, that there's some.
With some sort of like temporary, dare I say the word
The S
sign?
word.
Sign. I know sometimes signs are frowned upon, but a temporary like sandwich board sign, if it was placed
Or
at the crest of those hills.
What time would they be? Maybe dark when they're going to be leaving.
Well, what time do you think the performances would be occurring generally? Or is it all over the place? Daytime, nighttime, both?
I can't imagine things would be starting later than 7. So,
Well, as we get later into the year, daylight leaves us earlier.
yeah,
I'm not against some kind of portable sign.
Okay.
But I think we need to, you make it flash, something to get people's attention.
Dave, can I interrupt for just a second? The driveway that they're talking about using for the barn is to the south of their own personal driveway, which is a circular driveway. And that circular driveway therefore is between the crest of the hill and the barn.
I think you
driveway.
need to,
So I'm gonna ask whether there's any problem with the house driveway pulling out into traffic. Do you ever get sort of surprised by, a fast moving car?
I have not been, and I would say I'm a pretty timid driver. And there's definitely, when I walk up towards Highlawn and Summer Street, there's definitely a part of that hill where I need to walk really close to the side of the road.
well, generally, there's no sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm not sure I've had an issue pulling out of the,
as long as you take a look at it.
yeah,
it's not that I'm going to say, I'm dead against it because you haven't got a good line of sight. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just want to make everybody safe. That's all. Next thing is the sewer line that's up there.
Yeah.
That was put in as a private line.
On Spring Street? I'm sorry, on Spring Street?
Yep.
Okay,
The Scabot family, they put it in to cover their building lots.
okay.
And I wish somebody, would camera it see, make sure the size of it, because it goes through a easement through Nichols' property right next door.
Okay. On the same side of the road?
No,
Oh.
opposite side of the
Opposite
road,
Side of the road, okay.
Yeah. behind their house? No.
The other house, the other Shaka property, there was a,
Yeah, well, they own all those lots
All
up there
those,
to begin with.
right.
And they put up enough sewer to cover, because it was a wetland area, and town sewer wasn't up there. So they put a private line in. And they say, I believe it goes through Peter Nichols's property, across the street. It's to the, as you're looking into the property out of their driveway,
Mhm.
it's on the far left, and it goes down to Mandalay, where it ties in.
I assumed it was
Yes.
Mandalay, I just wasn't sure how.
But through the years, there was an issue when Dennis Welch was involved with the
Okay.
property. We had problems with the sewer line. So I just want to make sure that it's going to take the increased flow.
Okay.
Only for performances, but you don't know how sewer is. When it's going to be its worst is when you need it the most. Just make sure that everything's copacetic in that line.
The thought was, so they're hooked into town sewer, their house.
Yes, but it's all on that line.
No, I agree. I understand that. And the thought was we would, just so you know, tie in on their property. So essentially one service connection to the town was the thought process that I had. We haven't gone down that road yet, but it does lead to the line that you're referring to.
I just want to make sure there's capacity. They didn't put a 4-inch line for 4 lots and all of a sudden we're going to double the usage.
It's bigger behind the houses.
Well, I don't know that.
Yeah,
Can I do some research with the DPW or you're telling me you don't even,
Well-
the DPW doesn't have records?
Well, they might.
Okay.
And I'm talking with 2 hats because right now I'm
On
the
the board?
acting chair of the DPW.
Okay.
I hooked in the little cottage across the street. There's a small little cottage
Across the street from.
across the street.
Yes.
Guys, that sewer line goes behind there.
I'm just gonna look real quick, but I'm listening.
So I know, the only thing I know about the sewer is that the house next to us, the newish house next to us, has an easement across our property for their sewer line. Beyond the street, I don't,
Well, just that would be a good thing to take a look at. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah, well, for sure.
Yeah. And the last thing, that will initiate a capacity fee from the Board of Public Works by the change.
That's fair, because you're adding additional flow. Sure. Now typically that's done per bedrooms when it's a residential use, this being a little bit different, we'll have to, I guess, check the table. I know you have some flows.
Well, we go by Title V. so.
Yeah, so I'll have to do some math on what does a theater/educational use produce for flow.
I mean, I realize it's not constant, but
No, and it's,
that can be taken into consideration.
sure.
Thank you. Good to know about these things in advance.
That's all I got.
Bet you didn't know you were coming before a board with people who had installed the facility. This would not happen in Pittsfield, most likely, or Albany.
Times of year, you mean?
Yes, please.
So we're not winterizing the barn. When we do the renovations, we're winterizing it. So this will be strictly a seasonal use, probably weekends a couple times during the summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, that's our plan. We also hope to have programming that extends beyond sort of like the summering season, but not particularly extensive outside of that window.
I read how you're going to, you're hoping to have artists and different people there. How many do you think you'd that work?
So the residencies so far have been one artist in residency for 10 days at a time. Sometimes they bring collaborators and they stay in the 2-bedroom cottage. So it's really, at this point, it's twice a year. I mean, we'd like to be able to expand that to 4 times a year, depending on how their fundraising goes.
For 10 days at a time, and then it would,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like,
Another
it's not like a months long kind of thing, yeah.
Walking path all the way around the, really, a couple bridges I noticed also. Yeah.
We permitted the replacement of those two bridges 3 years ago or so.
Yep.
They put in two greatly engineered bridges. I'll take credit for that.
They're fantastic.
Then we went to the Conservation Commission for, yeah. There were some old ones that were basically
Well, the
logs.
bridges
Were they telephone poles or were they,
They
yeah?
were railroad ties.
But I thought the
Yes, they were.
round, I thought was more like a telephone. They were rotting and falling apart.
Bears really like the trail.
They do. Great.
Mike
Grew up in my house too.
house down this way. I remember tying in
it's a
down
beautiful
behind this
piece of
house.
property.
Well, I thought.
I always thought that.
Very lucky.
Such a-
And this
You're
was
welcome to
the
come and
lot.
You're
I
right,
would
yeah.
love
And it
to.
went
I really
right on
would.
this
I mean, I
property line.
I think you're right.
looked at
I
it when
did,
there was
'cause
a
I
tag
came off
sale in
this.
the burn.
I've heard so many
Yeah,
people talk
so
about
yeah.
the tag sale, and I wish
Right
that
about here.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was,
I bet.
yeah, it was.
There were a few things left behind.
Lovely, lovely
If
piece
there's
of
a
property.
problem, let's fix it up.
First thing, if I'm not cutting off anyone, we actually have two letters of support from neighbors. They weren't part of the submission. I did email them to Beth just today, though. So.
You got them out, I think. that's-
Oh, you already got them? Well, then there you go. You got more. Never mind. Okay, just wanted to point that out.
Conrad, you have stuff?
Yeah, like, to reiterate what we talked about before, I'm okay with the concept on this thing. I think the scale is probably appropriate. As long as this doesn't become a performing arts venue, I think retire
Thank
any of
You got it.
the
Yeah, that was very
occupancy
nice.
load that they're
Very-
putting in the barn. I think that's appropriate. Anything greater than that, we revisit.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, do we want a motion tonight, or are people asking? Peg asked about a site visit, and Dave asked about sewage.
What, yeah,
Are we ready to decide, or do we want more time?
or do we want, which
Well-
do you think?
I would love to have a site visit, but I don't want to hold anybody up. Would that be a big, 2 weeks or, because we meet every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Is that going to?
Well, I don't think it's gonna be a problem because we don't have construction plans finalized yet. And I think the next, well, I shouldn't speak out of turn, but the next step is the,
Building department.
yeah.
They have to apply for a building permit for
And we
modifications to the
can't do
building.
that until this is. done,
Well,
but
you-
right?
What's
Yes and no, you can always apply.
Oh.
Is the catch is the building inspector going to say, hey, I want to see the final
I see.
ruling from the planning board, which is fair. If you don't have the building plans yet, and not knowing who's actually going to apply for the permit.
There- yeah.
Often
We're
it's the
close.
contractor.
We're happy to have you come and look anytime you want. We're,
Okay.
What would we be inquiring about?
I just like to walk. I usually walk the property and look at it and think about it. That's how I do things. That's all. And I would love to have more culture here and more things.
Maybe you could visit after we approve it, Peg.
You can visit anytime.
Dave, I had another potential suggestion. If the sewer is in question, which is fair, would that not also come under the review of the DPW/Board of Public Works when it comes time to the new connection?
You're not actually connecting anything new, as you said, you're connecting, you're adding to,
So just adding to, we need to apply, right, and write a check.
and
you
it's
have to-
going to change the capacity, that'll generate the capacity fee.
Agreed, and you're going to have to approve before they should actually make that connection, even outside?
Usually the building inspector will issue a permit as long as he knows the capacity fee either
Okay.
has been paid or will be paid.
I guess I'm just trying to make the suggestion, if agreeable, that that provision of inspecting the sewer or evaluating it further could be handled at a later date when it comes time to do the.
Well, I just think it's beneficial for the owner, because push came to shove, there was a problem with the sewer line. I mean, first thing you're gonna come to the town and say you got trouble with your sewer line, and we're gonna say, no, that's not ours. So as long as it's understood that that was put in as a private line, you're at your own risk. I mean, if there's a
And so
problem,
is everybody else who's up there, right? I mean, if it's.
everybody
if it's
that's tied into
malfunctioning-
that one line,
If
yeah.
it's malfunctioning, everybody's
Yep.
got a problem.
I just wanted to make sure that, the
Oh.
owners knew what what they had there.
We did not know, so
What
I,
about,
Ah,
Let's check it out for them, just to make sure that it's got capacity, the line's in good shape. I believe it's a plastic line. It's not that, you said you put it in?
I tied in the cottage years
Okay.
ago,
I'm pretty
Boy.
sure.
Cottage on this property or across the street?
across the street.
From the house down to the rest of that neighborhood, we need to put in a grinder pump because the barn's at a lower elevation,
Pump it where?
and pump it to basically just past the house on our property. So we'll tie into the sewer main that goes, the sewer service that goes from the house to the street. We'll tie in somewhere near that U-shaped driveway, so it all stays on the property. And that pump, nowadays I like the E1 grinder pumps. They're a nice universal pump that at most, they usually pump 100 gallons at a time. There's different sizes, so you can actually size it accordingly.
It's a storage capacity,
It's about 100 gallons at a time.
100 gallons.
Yeah. You can get them bigger ones. But usually when those come on, they pump until they're basically empty. And, you know, at one, you know, if you have a typical modern day toilet, which is what, like a gallon or a gallon and a half now? I mean, that's 100 flushes. For arguably 35 people, that's, someone's going to the bathroom a lot. You know,
A single pump?
I'm thinking a single pump, yeah. It's a private little, I think a simplex is going to be fine. It's really not much different than a house. It's probably less flow than a house in some cases.
Not during intermission.
So your concern is noted. I guess I was looking at the best interest of my clients. just to move
I
along.
truly believe that if you're under a gun to get this going, we could take a vote. And what you're checking is more for the owner than for the town.
Sure. If it's private, I want to study that. That's interesting. You know, is it, so it's a portion of it's private under Spring Street? As that
Yeah.
sounds like?
Mhm.
That's an interesting.
so does the town lease it? How does that?
No.
So in modern day, when you do a private sewer connection that's on town property, it's kind of case by case, but often whoever installed it, and if there's, say, an association, they're responsible for it. Unless they petition the town to take it over and say, hey, can you take it over for us, which is, again, case by case basis. I'm guessing this line was put in, how many decades ago?
I'm gonna guess it was. in
Early 80s?
Yeah, I'm gonna
70s?
say late 70s.
50 years ago, 40 to 50 years ago, someone put it in, maybe with a, I'm involved, I don't know, unless you know.
Town was
Okay.
involved with it because I think I wasn't on a board. and-
Sure.
But they came and they, you know, it wasn't advantageous for the town to run that distance to pick up a few houses. And the existing owner, he knew in order to build or sell those lots, he had to provide sewer because the ponds and the wetlands up there. Because it is, you know, around the pond, it's wet. But
So do you think it runs cross-country then through those like backyards and hits Mandalay, essentially?
well, as I say, when you look across the street where Peter, what's his last name?
Peter Nichols.
His house is to the right. Originally, that lot was one lot, and then he split it into two. So I believe as you look into that lot, it's on the far left-hand side, runs down the edge of the woods.
Okay,
Where that line runs, because it washed out a couple times and when they were building it.
But Stephanie Copeland, is that across the street?
I don't,
she's in that little cottage, I think.
Yeah, there's a house and then a cottage also. Yeah.
So you, up here, across the street, there's like a cottage
yes,
and a house.
exactly, yeah.
It's listed as Stephanie Copeland.
Yeah.
It was recently
Yep, I'm looking at the
sold, I
same thing.
think.
Got the same.
We got an empty lot, two empty lots almost directly across.
Yeah,
He's
they,
right.
so Peter and Cindy sold that to.
That's what I'm thinking.
Ready for motion?
I think so. Yeah. I
Right?
think we could do a
you have to
motion.
get it approved.
If you recognize me, I'll move. You ready, Mr. Chairman? I'll move that the
Couple of things. We gotta,
site plan is submitted with the date of,
no, I think we, strict site
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna get there. The date is July 10th, 2023, submitted by SK Design Group for Levy residence. My motion is that this site plan is sufficient for review under a minor site plan standard. Is that the right
I
one?
think that works now. Yeah, if you notice, we changed things around a little bit last year.
Yep.
We're no longer doing the, what was the wording we always use? But
All the waivers.
waiver of requirements. So we're either doing small or large,
Minor or major, right?
minor and major, yeah.
Just an amendment to that though. Plan date is May 2nd, 2023, revised dated
Oh,
July 10th.
Thank you. I accept the correction. Second, though.
Need a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Just in that,
conditions that you talked about earlier.
But we're not approving it yet. We're just
Oh, sorry.
saying that we can read it.
the site plan submission.
Believe it or not, it's good enough to read.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Now, in the packet here, is there, so you're always going to be a nonprofit educational? Do we have paperwork in your packet somewhere?
At the end, there was a lease agreement. I'm trying to remember the exact
there's a-
verbiage.
And there's a
Okay.
zoning.
All right.
Zoning opinion from an attorney regarding the use of being allowed in the zone. I did provide, I thought, a separate lease agreement. Is that-
Yeah, there is, I do remember seeing, so in the lease.
That is rather complex,
Yep.
in my opinion.
Want a copy of the IRS determination letter?
No, it says here that you're a 501c3, so that's good. Yep. All right. Sorry to sidebar that, but never mind.
Ready to
Any
vote?
further discussion? We'll vote on the submission of the site plan. Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Peg?
Aye.
Conrad?
Aye.
Buck Donovan, aye. Submit, we accept the submission.
I move that the site plan dated May 2nd, 2023 and revised on July 10th, 2023 be approved as submitted with the important understanding that there is an issue of possible sewage to be investigated later by the engineer who applied, with the understanding that a key factor in this approval is that it is to remain an educational use with an occupancy not to exceed 49 in the barn. And with those understandings, I move approval of the site plan.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
And just one more correction, the date on the plan as prepared by SK Design Group.
I accept your amendment. Yeah.
Sorry.
Are we gonna mention that, traffic? Just to have them
Oh,
check in?
yeah. And also that it's important to understand that the applicant's engineer has agreed to investigate the possibility of a nighttime traffic problem from the exiting driveway. Is it just a nighttime problem? Is it a daytime problem?
I think it's more at night.
I walk there all the
It's a-
time and I
it's a-
don't see it, Dave, but we should ask you to investigate it.
We can investigate.
Motion and a second. Conrad, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Peg?
Aye.
Conrad?
Aye.
Buck Donovan, aye. All set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about the computer.
So we're gonna get you a letter, right? Beth, we do letters now for these things.
When are you there?
Get it? We'll get,
I was wondering what the formal approval
Well,
was out.
you gave us back our bylaw section and I read it in your application. I reread it and I remember now that it was my dumb idea.
Here, why don't you-
Special, a permit-like findings and a letter after us.
All the young people.
It's always, yeah.
Good to have that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm somewhat under the impression, and I could be incorrect, that
Give you a
site
call
plan
tomorrow
approval
morning and we
Oh,
can
and
isn't necessarily a permit,
call or
it's
text.
No,
approval.
no, it's
Right.
approval.
So
Right.
it's kind of like this gray area.
It's necessary to get the building permit.
617.
Yes, agreed.
And even
Gotcha.
it's questionable,
Okay.
any
I'll do
conditions
that.
we
I-
put in there,
I'll do
how
six-
much
six-
teeth
six
they
one?
have.
Okay.
So-
And-
On a side note, I think that happened down in Monterey. They denied a camp site plan approval, or they put conditions on it. They appealed it.
I will, and then,
That wasn't in the paper not that long ago.
Thank you.
F1 in the sense that the court.
The town put on these conditions on a site.
we want more young people
Or
too.
basically said,
Conditions.
some version of that. It wasn't that long ago.
There's one idea that
Camp
is,
Half Moon or something.
this idea that a site.
Yeah. Yeah, they did real good this year.
Yeah, I know. You're lucky there. Good.
Does anyone
Okay.
else want to see the site? Because we're happy, I mean, if you're interested, we're happy to
Yeah.
have you all, you said you walked.
I walk by. I love your ferns.
Thank you. I'm so happy that we're getting rain this summer because the ferns are doing great.
Oh,
Ferns.
it's a beautiful,
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
yeah.
Good. Wonderful.
Okay, well,
Good job,
that's a
Peter.
good thing. For young people
It
too.
just meshes with master plan and everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not Tanglewood, but it's
No, I know, but so what? It's a
better than
good
not, a lot better than nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night.
Okay, moving on. We have Berkshire Regional Planning Commission delegate. This is interesting, what has transpired. I got an email from Berkshire Regional saying, I'm the delegate if I wish to continue on. And how it works, once you're elected a delegate, as long as you're still on the planning board, you may remain on as a delegate unless 2/3 of you want to vote me off. I
So we
think
don't have to pass anything.
we
can
don't
just.
have to. I think in good faith, if you wanted to reaffirm it, it would be fine.
I would move that Buck Donovan be appointed to continue as the representative of the town to the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission.
I'll second.
You, roll call, Peter? Dave?
Aye.
Peg?
Aye.
Conrad? And Buck Donovan, aye. As far as the alternate, in the state laws, they have the governing body, select board, town administrator, whatever it is, assigns a alternate. Historically, it's always been another member of the planning board. The select board also got this email about the procedure, and they had Bob Jones and assigned Bob Jones as the alternate. So they
Oh.
kind of sidestepped us, and they have the right to appoint their own alternate. We usually put forth an alternate to them, but this time they decided not to.
We appoint the rep and they appoint the alternate?
Yes, yes.
You couldn't make this stuff up.
It's how, and how this law and the state law, that's right, how it's spelled out, how a regional planning commission gets their delegates and their alternates.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on, accessory dwelling units. Here we go.
Well, Mr. Chairman, at our last meeting, I had a draft. I don't think I went over it with you in text detail, but I think I summarized some of the major changes since the last one you reviewed. And after that, Gordon Bailey and I met, and I made a couple of other changes, terminology changes mostly. I don't know if Gordon is available.
He is here.
I talked with him today, and he has general support for this, as I understand it, but with one additional change, which we'll get to. So Beth was kind enough to set forth the red line, and it shows you all of the changes that I made, plus the ones I made for Gordon. In the paragraph B1, you can see that the word single paren attached or detached close paren has been added. So that was a big change. We had previously talked only about changing the rules for detached ADUs. But when we realized that there was a problem with the lot size for a two-family, we had to explicitly set forth that there are going to be different rules as to an attached ADU and a two-family. The two-family has to have the larger lot size, but the attached ADU would not have to have the double lot size that a two-family has. Okay? Everybody connected on that?
There's a difference in between,
Well, so if you want to build a two-family, you need a bigger lot size, right? That's the standard zoning since way back. But if you have a single family now and you want to devote the upstairs to be an ADU, we first thought that would make it a two-family, but then
duplex.
duplex. But now what we're saying is that there's an intermediate category. There's a single family with ADU that's in between, and it doesn't trigger the large lot size. So if you're on a lot that was big enough for the house, your lot will be big enough for the ADU if it's attached, okay?
When we go to the building department, are you asking for a building permit for an ADU, or are you going in for a duplex?
An ADU, well, you could have a duplex if you have enough acreage.
With a duplex, you could go to a bigger unit size.
You don't have to suffer these
You
restrictions.
wouldn't have to be within these restrictions.
So this would be no greater than 900 square feet.
Correct.
Regulation.
Yeah, so it's a little more complicated. I mean, there was single family, two family, multifamily. Got the ADU added in to the single family as kind of an in-between thing.
Right.
Okay, paragraph 2, we had, everybody knows Title V, but it took the longest time to find out where it comes from. And Gordon solved that, and it's 310 CMR 1500.
15.0.
15.00, yeah. Paragraph C1 states explicitly that a detached ADU, okay, it says minimum lot size requirements for a single family dwelling with a detached ADU shall be the same as for a single family.
Oh, Gordon's got his hand up.
Okay,
Maybe he can help. What do you, gonna help with this one,
Oh.
Gordon?
No, I can wait till he's done, then I can wait, and when Peter's done with his presentation, I'll be happy to speak then. Just want to make sure everybody's clear on what's going on, something that both you, Mr. Chairman, and another member brought up. I just want to make sure that everybody understands where this is going, but I'll wait till Peter's done. Thank you.
and we had on here, an ADU shall not be established on any lot smaller than 15,000 square feet. I struck that out because I can't think of how it could ever, the sentence could ever apply. If you were under 20,000 square feet on your lot, you can't have even a house. So I don't know how you could have an under 15,000 square foot lot. I mean, I suppose you could be a non-conforming lot looking to put an ADU on. Anyway, it's at the time that I proposed striking this out, it seemed unnecessary. It seemed like it would never have any effect.
So if it's an R20, you gotta have the 20,000 square feet. You
Yeah,
gotta have an ADU or detached. If you got an R30, you gotta have 30,000 square feet.
right. Now, there is a possibility of a non-conforming lot. So maybe I made a mistake here. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's where I think we gotta,
You need a sentence.
I think you'd be into setback issues then. So
Yeah, you'd almost certainly run into some other kind of problem.
however,
If you're-
however, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, if you're in a lot that small, it's gonna have town sewer. Because you wouldn't ever be able to get a septic system in.
Yeah.
So,
We put in a small addition, as in the case of, we just talked about, where it's not, where is it? This is for detached? Well, this is only for detached. If you get into an attached ADU, 15,000 and 20,000 is probably irrelevant. Because it's going to be attached, and as long as you run the addition to the side or the rear, it's perhaps would have a setback issue.
What's your judgment on the strike through? Leave it as printed or restore the language? Sorry, I brought you confusion on this. I thought I would.
If you got a 15,000 square foot lot and say it's a smaller primary home and you can fit and be compliant with setbacks in 15,000, then it's good. If it's not, then it's not.
So restore the language, Conrad, you think? Don't complete the strikeout?
Okay.
I don't think it'll matter, because I don't think we have anything that would fall into that. Because like he just said, you can't build on less than 20,000. So the only one would be a pre-existing non-conforming.
Why don't you just leave it then? Instead of striking it, leave it.
Yeah. It
So
probably,
restore the language
Yes.
as printed, okay.
I don't think you'll ever see it, but if
Just
we
in
miss
case.
something in
Yeah.
town.
And I wonder if, as I read this, the red line, the red stuff, minimum lot size requirements for a single dwelling with a detached ADU. I think that rule applies to also attached ADU, right? So we were saying the one thing, but sort of people could read it as implying the other isn't true.
When we first started writing this, we were kind of trying to play both sides.
I know,
Attached and
yeah.
detached.
Well, why don't we just strike detached?
Yeah, and just strike a detached and write an ADU. Because it doesn't matter whether it's attached or detached, right?
True.
Sorry, I haven't got this perfect yet, but I do this to my own work all the time.
It's an evolution.
Tear it up.
It's a work in progress, Peter.
It was perfect when I sent it to you, but now today suddenly it's not. I don't know.
We all agree on that?
So I've got in one, I've got strike a detached and replace with and restore the strikeout. Okay. Paragraph 4. This separation requires that the ADU is a fully separate dwelling unit. I think the words dwelling unit came from Gordon. He uses that a lot in his work, and it's a defined and understood term generally. And then with separate kitchen, bathroom, and egress, this may not be necessary to say, but it was suggested by one of our zoning officials. And I thought it was probably helpful to people who are building these things to know what they're facing rather than have it hidden away in some code somewhere. So I suggested leaving it in, and I don't think Gordon disagrees. Parking, so the site plan for every lot with an ADU shall include at least 3 off-street parking spaces. We did say 4, and I don't know, 4 would be good, but there's a lot of feeling nowadays about zoning that zoning generally overdoes parking requirements. And you know, that wastes a lot of space and produces a lot of needless asphalt in the world. So I suggested 3. They also mentioned that maybe there should be a diagram that shows where the parking is on the lot. I thought that was probably a little bit over the top, so I didn't include that. Are you guys okay with 3?
Yeah.
However,
Yeah. This is why we have you here, Conrad.
you get into neighborhoods where you have a house where it's placed or wherever, you're having neighborhoods where these people start parking on the street.
These people, meaning the ADU people.
ADU people. I guess I've always been of the mind, there's a unit and there's a unit for the same property. And the way people are today, the husband and wife got a car, the wife and girlfriend have a car. Really older.
Sounds like you're pushing back for 4.
Well, no, this is a good discussion here.
I almost voted against the Eagle Mill on the ground that they only had 1 parking space per unit. You do, you know.
I remember that discussion.
Yeah. And I don't know, I sort of changed my mind about it. I feel a little bit more like, yeah, we shouldn't push quite so hard. You're right. There'll be 4 cars there a lot of the time. And
Harvard. residents and also from people visiting.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to avoid the issue of having cars parking on the street where,
feel strongly about it either way. I made it 3 as much to bring up the issue as.
I'm just raising the point. I mean, it's
I
whatever you
hate-
guys think.
Well, like you said, Peter, I'd hate to mandate that and have that much non-permeable. Is a thought, you know. We require more and more parking for worst case scenario, and we end up, you know,
A lot of parking lots.
tear down paradise to put up a parking lot.
Whoever engineering firm led the discussion on the Eagle Mill and said they had done a mill, Holyoke, and half the lot is empty all the time. That's what they
Yeah,
used for an argument, I believe.
yeah, that's right, they did, yeah. We approved it anyway, because I voted for it just the way it was submitted, because the bylaw was so explicit, 1 parking spot per unit.
Do you want to stay with the 3? Everybody okay with that?
I think we need to hear from Peg and Dave. Yeah,
3's plenty.
okay.
Okay.
All right, away we go. Home occupation, this was out for a while and then in for a while. I think Jamie sent an edit that took this out, but I never understood why. And so I put it back in. And we just clarified, it's rather than saying it says if the home occupation meets the requirements of the bylaw. Okay, onward. Number 8. This is a prohibition on further subdivision. Once you build an ADU in the backyard, you don't get to create it to draw a line between your house and the ADU.
What if you're on a 4-acre parcel? What if you're on a 5-acre parcel? Hypothetical.
I think the answer to that is build and not divide it and then build. Instead of an ADU. An ADU is accessory to the main dwelling.
Yep.
And it shouldn't be on a separate lot from the main dwelling. So,
Without this, I see some really sneaky stuff going on.
Mhm.
Well, like you say, a 4-acre lot, there's my ADU, Form A it. And then, okay, now I'll build another ADU off of that lot and I'll Form A. Before you know it, I've got a subdivision.
Okay.
all right, on to the definitions. There's not a lot that's important here. I think you can read it and understand it. Gordon did have a amendment to the last sentence that he told me about tonight when I spoke with him. It reads that ADU may be a part of the main dwelling or detached from the main dwelling. He pointed out, and I think he's right. It would be just simpler to just say an ADU may be attached or detached from the main dwelling, or attached to or detached from. So attached to is clearer than part of.
Mhm.
Okay, that, everybody okay? Gross floor area, the mezzanines are out in the second line because Gordon tells me mezzanines are something that you use in a commercial context, not in a residential context. Nobody knows what a residential mezzanine looks like.
I agree.
And then when we were excluding balconies, I don't think we were excluding the part of the stairway that overlooks the living room. We were excluding exterior balconies. So I added the word exterior here. And then the last part is to town meeting as a question of how to define a short-term rental. And if the short-term rental bylaw passes, the safest thing we thought was to just use the definition that will then be in the bylaw already as of short-term rental. And it's in 199-913. But if the bylaw, if the STR bylaw does not pass, then we have an alternative called option B. which is almost exactly what you saw last time, except for 30 days substitutes for 1 month. And it deletes advertised or publicly, because offered to the public is broad enough to describe all of that without those modifiers. Okay?
So does that mean? Town meeting?
Yes, we should vote on the STR first. That's exactly right. That was the assumption that we made. Once we know whether that passes or not, then we know which of these two things to use.
And we'll amend that on the floor. I think that would be,
Clarify it when you make the motion. Yeah. Okay. Everybody okay? I don't have any information about when that meeting is going to be.
anything,
Maybe-
Beth? Nothing yet.
Gordon
Huh?
would like to weigh in now with comments, including that question.
We also have, Wagner Hodgkins in the, on. Go ahead, Gordon, if you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My comments, I just want to make sure that everyone's clear about something. And I think Peter did a pretty good job of trying to explain it. Remember that your zoning enforcement officer is also the building official. And while you, the first thing a building official has to do before they entertain reviewing a permit application is to make sure it complies with zoning. So it's important to realize that if this ADU between 400 and 900 square feet is attached to a single family home, if it's attached, that the language that you're choosing is fine. And it makes sure that the building official realizes that it can utilize the single family square footage out of the table of dimensional requirements. But then when the people go to get their permit, the building official can rule that. Then he puts on his other hat, which is the building official hat. And in that case, he has to tell them that they have to comply to the two families standards in the building code. And so they'll need 2 exits out of that apartment. They'll need separation between the apartment and the main building. They'll need separated fire alarm systems. I just want to make sure that you understand, so that if somebody asks you at the town meeting floor, that you'll be able to give them the correct answer, that while the building code will say that's a 2-family home and you have to meet those requirements, that your language about ADU is specifically just to allow these very small units to be put on the same lot by right as a single family. I hope that explains it to you. So the building official actually has to wear 2 hats in this, which they always do anyway, but I just don't want it to be confusing to the board if somebody were to come in and complain that they were held to the building code standards of a 2-family, when it was really just the dimensional requirements of 2 families that aren't required to be met if you meet the 400 to 900 square foot requirement. That's all. That's it. Thank you. I think other than that, I didn't have any other than one other suggestion on.
Are you
that Peter
going
already
to
said.
bring that up? Are you going to bring that up and make it ultimately totally confusing for everybody?
Well, I don't think it's so much confusing, but I think people need to
Not
understand.
for us, but
Well,
the general
yeah,
public.
I can do that, Buck. If you guys don't want to do it, I'm willing to speak to that. Issue at town meeting.
it's 2 separate things. What an ADU
Yes. Yep.
is a zoning thing.
Yes,
And once it is an ADU, it becomes a building code
yes.
issue. So it's 2
Correct.
separate things.
There's no separate
Correct.
building code for ADUs.
No.
No, there is no
separate building
such
code.
thing as an ADU in the building code. So I want to make sure that anybody who's voting on this is clear, and you guys can explain it. You can ask me. I don't really care, but I wanted to make sure that you, as the planning board, understand what's going on here. That's all. That's all.
Do you feel it's necessary to really try to explain that?
Well, I think it could, as you mentioned, it might muddy things up. So unless somebody asks the question, I don't know what's going on there. I got a high squeal.
Oh,
That was me. Oh, I'm kidding.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. Sounded like something from the movie Alien, but anyway, yeah, as long as you guys understand the concept, then I don't think we need to go into detail. I think the building official is going to be the one, zoning enforcement official, unfortunately, is going to be the one between the rock and a hard place where they have to explain it to the people. So I can either do it or not. I'll let you guys think about it and you decide whether you want to bring it up or whether you don't want to bring it up. I think it's harmful if it adds confusion and people don't pass this, because I think it's a good thing for our town. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. And I would say that at town meeting, that I think this is a really good thing. But there are some building code ramifications that are different than our zoning code ramifications.
It's not that we're making it any worse. It's just that we're making it easier in some ways and leaving other stuff the way it is, but it's important that people know that what that stuff is.
In that
Yeah,
statement, Gordon,
Yeah.
you know what I hear in that statement is I hear again, yeah, it's a good piece of what they wrote here, but they contradicted the building code, and I'm not sure if we really can do that.
No, you didn't really
The layman,
contradict
that's
that.
what I just heard.
No, you
No, but
didn't
that's
contradict
what-
that.
No,
Well-
but that's what a layman will hear.
I will write it out and just say that there's two different paths and they're all going to get you to the same place.
Yes.
You know, two different paths. And if you meet the zoning code requirement, it really is more about meeting the dimensional requirements of the single family lot. Other
Right,
than
even-
that, if you meet that, the building code is just going to say, well, in your 400 to 900 square foot unit, you're going to have to meet the building code requirements. That's all.
That's right. That's simple.
I can keep it very simple, just like that.
Yeah.
Or you can, Buck. You can keep it simple, just like that. Or Peter, whoever, David. I don't care who does it.
Are we saying C2 gross floor area of an ADU shall be not less than 400 square feet, not more than 900 square feet, such ADU subject to state building code?
All this that's always inferred. Any of
Well,
this,
it's inferred. Should we-
Yeah.
I think we need to. Do we
You
need
can
to?
Yeah, you can say it if you want to. Wouldn't hurt, but it's, people are going to be maybe surprised if you don't write it in there, but the building official is going to tell them. It's just up to you guys whether you want to mention it, because as Buck points out, it's a requirement. You can't write out the building code. You just can't do that. So you can't have building code type language in your bylaw. And this does not conflict with the state building code, the way it's written so far.
Okay.
That's all. I'll put my hand down.
The idea of adding it, so once again, there's no.
Any idea when baby town meeting will be, Gordon?
I do not, I'm afraid. We're waiting for a couple more things to come in, having to do with public safety complex and all that, but
Okay.
we're hoping certainly sometime in late fall.
While I have you here,
Yes, sir.
you notice yes, I can ask this question. We have short-term rental language at the end of
Yep.
this. So we were
Yep.
just talking that we'll probably present short-term rental bylaw first. Have
Yep.
you looked over that?
Yes, I've been in discussions with Mr. Malone, and I will be in more discussions once we get a little closer, and you have your hearings on that. But yes, I have,
'cause- All right. Because what I've noticed is now that for years you were not on that front table, but with you on that front table, you carry a lot of influence. So it's always good to know where you are before we go to town meeting.
I understand that, sir.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to much of anything that's been proposed, and I'll double check it again and be in communication with Conrad and Peter.
Perfect. Not me.
No, not you. I never want to talk to you unless it's just
You don't want,
relaxed.
not on that one. No, sir.
No, we'll relax on other things.
So can I just say, as to Conrad's suggestion, Conrad, if we decide to do that, I would suggest that we do it in 4. because in 4 at the end is where we're getting close to building code issues, egress and kitchen, bathroom and stuff. I wonder if that would be the place to add it, if at all,
And you just add in shall be subject.
and remain subject to the building code.
Sure.
Good.
That's fine.
And it puts it right out there.
Yep.
Which is obvious. I mean, yeah. You can have all your setbacks and everything correct in like any house. And that's zoning and then there's building codes. So and now stretch code and all good stuff.
Okay, so that's in. That was easy. Okay.
Do we think?
You asking.
So we're going to put it back in the freezer again until we.
I don't think so. I think let's do a hearing. I think we
Or a
could
hearing,
probably schedule
yeah.
it for September.
Yes.
Would be safe. Our
Yeah,
first meeting in September.
If we miss it, we won't only miss it by, there'll be another town meeting in May anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
it's got to
that
be
would be
within 6
nice.
months.
Yeah,
So it should be, I mean, even if we did it August, now we're 6 months till the end of the year. We're going to have one by the end of the year.
okay.
Is that what you're hearing, Gordon? We'll have something by the end of the year.
Yes, sir, that's the intention.
Okay. So we do it first meeting of September?
Just for ADU or you want
Just
to do
for-
STR also?
I can't, I think, no, I can't discuss it. I could set a
Oh,
hearing
right.
for it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
You want to review it one more time before you set it for hearing?
The STR or the ADU?
The STR.
the STR.
I think we have to,
Yep.
especially if we're going to review it with Gordon.
Yes, let's put that on the agenda for the second meeting in August. And if you guys can get with Gordon,
That would make sense.
And
Go-
discuss-
I've already worked it out with Gordon. We had a meeting on both of
Oh,
them.
yeah. Is that what
Okay.
I got?
That's what you got, yeah. I think we can do it next meeting. Is it?
Whatever you said.
So we could set a date today for the ADU. And then at the next meeting, when we do the STR, we could pick the same date and make it a joint.
I think that'd be too much for one.
I do too.
Gordon, you got your hand raised?
Yes, sir, I just wanted to make sure Conrad knew that when I got together with Peter, he was out of town on vacation. We did not try to go bypass Conrad's input. And so I'm more than happy to meet with Conrad and Peter together. It's just he was out of town and it happened to work out we could get together. That was the only reason Conrad didn't know that we got together. That's all. I just want to make sure he knew we weren't bypassing him for any reason.
Oh, no problem at all.
All right, thanks.
That's not a scowl you're seeing, Gordon, on the TV. That's a smile.
Yeah, I know. That's it. Boy, he's right at the end of the table. I see it.
But, let's see. So if we set the public hearing for the STR on the 28th
Of
of August, you guys could get together during August sometime?
Oh, on the STR, not for this.
STR,
Okay.
or do you want to switch them?
I think it's just this board that needs to review the STR draft. Gordon and I have already gone over it. I don't have any further changes in mind.
We can do that in 2 or 3 weeks.
Let's do that in the next meeting.
Yeah, and then you'll just step aside for that item and we'll call you back in when it's.
Yep.
And then have them both ready for,
No, I think two separate public
Oh,
hearings.
all right.
I think the STR one is going to be busy.
I kind
A lot of people to talk.
I
Yeah, yeah.
suspect that. So let's do that one, August 28th.
STR on August 28th.
And then public hearing, and then the ADU on the 11th.
Now, I don't know if we can get the STR notice out until we have the draft finalized. And we won't have that until the second.
Our draft, we don't have to have the draft finalized until the public hearing.
Really? Okay. Doesn't go in the, it doesn't go up on the website or anything?
I mean, it can.
Okay,
It's still
okay.
it's still a work in progress at that
Right.
point.
And it might
Yeah.
change.
Okay. And then when do you want to do this one?
The ADU, the
Yeah,
11th, September 11th. Oh, goodness.
Boy,
Boy, we've been saying that for 22
I know.
years now. Still hits you, doesn't it?
it's September, you mean, or what?
September 11th.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Oh,
9/11.
Would replace December 7th, didn't it?
Well, December 7th's always been weird for me. It's my birthday.
Oh, no.
My parents said it was a date that lived in infamy too.
Good one, Bob. Mr.
Okay, moving on. What else did we have? We got a master plan report.
Oh, we met recently and we worked over some text and I'm in the process of telling the committee that we're going to have to double our workload for starting September. We're going to be meeting twice a month rather than once a month. And we're also, I'm beginning to feel that we have dithered too long a little bit. I think we're a little behind schedule if we're going to finish by Christmas. There's a lot of decisions to make. And I floated an idea at the last meeting to try and get things flowing more expeditiously. My idea was that we would have sort of an online process by which, if we were talking about housing, say one member could propose a housing objective, a second by another member would bring it up for debate at the next meeting. That was rejected by the committee. They didn't like my proposal. So I'm looking for another way to get organized. And Dave Buttery, who's a member of the committee, is a veteran of many corporate exercises of this kind, and he's made some very useful suggestions that I plan on talking with our regional planning staff tomorrow about. But I'm hopeful still that we can finish by Christmas, but it's going to require a lot of work, and it's going to be requiring a lot of text from our staff that we haven't gotten so far. We've gotten a pretty good summary of existing conditions. Demographic, did you get that, Peg?
I did get that. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, how many people we have, how old they are, what their incomes are, how many housing units we have, that kind of stuff. It produced, to my mind, a surprisingly hostile reaction when I reported to the committee that Lee's income per capita per household is slightly above average for the Berkshires. Nobody wanted to believe it. Everybody said, no, that's wrong. And so I said, well, what are your facts? You know, what do you have? What do you know?
Fake news.
It was like, well, we just know that's wrong, you know. So what are we going to do, folks? Are we going to have nothing in the report about income? We're going to have no facts at all? Or are we going to have these facts? Or are we going to have a different set of facts? So we're sort of struggling with that. But I think we'll come through it. And I wish it were better. The census is far from ideal. The census did a sampling for income. You know, when you do your census form every 10 years, it's not a question about your income. They do that a different way, and they use a smaller sample of people. So it's a little more questionable. And we've had people say, well, you know, it doesn't work because, you know, Hispanic people don't report. Well, okay, but do Hispanic people in Pittsfield report, you know, and in North Adams, you know, I mean, is it a systemic problem just in Lee or just in Lee, you know? So anyway, we're going to have the information. I predict we'll have the information in the draft. I think the staff guy suggested to me after the meeting that perhaps a meeting with you all might be a good thing for not a joint meeting of the two committees, but to have him and me talk to you all about land use issues. I don't know whether he still wants to do that. I'm going to be pressing him hard for product from here on. So he may decide that meeting is something he can do without. But it's a possibility that he may ask for a meeting. You know, we're going to be making recommendations on a whole slew of different areas, outdoor, recreation, and transportation and housing. But one of the big ones, maybe the biggest one, is land use. And the biggest tools we have to control land use, aside from where the town buys and sells, is zoning and subdivision. And this board is the expert on that. And so I can see why he wants to talk to you, but I predict that he'll discover that he has running out of hours on his budget and that he won't have time to do it. But we'll see. Anyway, we're meeting next, the third week in August. And then after that, it's going to be every 2 weeks as far as I'm concerned.
Boy.
So, oh, and then we have, I asked you to appoint a member last time, and we did. She was there at the meeting and she was welcomed. There's a possibility of one more person that I may be asking you for, but I'm not going to say more about that tonight.
Just out of curiosity, and the census, that's all US Census for 2020?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the income census is something called the ACS, American Something Survey. And it's run by the census, but I'm not clear. It's like a department of the census department or a division of the census department, but it's a separate, people understand it as a kind of a separate data source. ACS is the acronym for it.
Why I'm asking, in my prior life, we used what they call ESRI, ESRI.
Oh, I know Esri. Yeah,
Yeah.
a private company. Yeah.
Anybody have access? I used to have access, I no longer. You have to subscribe to it.
Esri is a GIS company they're the ones who came up with ArcInfo in the 80s.
All kinds of demographic data,
Yeah.
income information.
There's a guy at the regional planning office who is their GIS guy, and we have a lot of maps. Beth, do you have access to the maps that you haven't seen the maps? Okay, they've sent us maps, and they're all GIS maps, and I'm sure he uses the Esri software to produce them. But
So could he get us profile on Lee based on the Esri?
well, Esri is going to produce a map representation of data from elsewhere. I mean, Esri doesn't go out and ask people in Lee what their incomes are, right? They rely on the census data. So they're not going to create anything new. It's just going to be a different way of presenting the data.
Well, we didn't get it in maps. I mean, we got it in data, all data driven. They isolate everything, historically as well as current. Even give projections out to 2022, 2023. Income, racial backgrounds, married, single, number of kids, all the age groups. I mean, it's quite comprehensive. We used to use them in the retail side all the time.
Yeah.
Real estate, doing real estate acquisition.
I'll ask about that. I'm going to talk with our staff guy tomorrow. I'll ask.
See if they got access to it. I mean, they do it by towns, but actually we used to get it by, here's the location, give us a 1 mile, 2 mile, 5 mile
Yeah.
radius.
Yeah.
The algorithm, they just get all that stuff together. We found it very,
There's one thing also that came up at the end. There's something called in Massachusetts called an environmental justice community. Anybody ever heard of this?
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what I said. What do you mean? Well, you'll hear more about it. It'll be reported. It'll be part of the plan. But apparently the state legislature has created a category of sub-communities, something like a census block, but not a census block, where, or maybe it is a census block, I don't know, but it's about that size, where there's something in that block that makes it look like there's poor people there, or brown people there, or black people there, or somehow disadvantaged people there. And apparently, I don't know the details yet, but apparently a certain number of state grants flow to these areas.
Right.
And it's called the environmental justice
Mhm.
grouping or environmental justice community.
Mhm.
Even though I don't personally see what any of the criteria have to do with environment or justice. It has to do with the income and color anyway. Oh, and language, whether you speak English. But it seems to be a way to sort of funnel money to preferred communities, which under the rubric of this is environmentally just.
Mhm.
And a large part of Lee is one of those categories,
Yeah.
including where you live and where I live.
Yep.
This was news to me, and yeah, everybody says they all know about it, and it was my first exposure to it.
Yeah, well,
I had to learn the lingo, so I don't know if you care about that yet, but you'll see it probably in the final plan.
I think that's a big thing now. Massachusetts anyways.
I'm not surprised,
Yeah,
not surprised.
I know even at the last convention for the Democrats, everything was environmental justice.
Oh, yeah.
Heard it over and over
So
again.
it's really
I'm just
not
saying, it's,
Well, I mean,
demographic justice. not
it's like, no, it's justice
Well,
for
it
poor
depends on
communities,
how-
brown communities, and Hispanic communities. It's really masquerading as environmental justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
They call it environmental
Or
justice.
social justice.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
it's certainly motivated as part of the social, anyway.
Yeah, it's
It's
confusing.
a little bit less than
Anyway.
fully described, I would say. Anyway, so there could be money for portions, some neighborhoods. It's basically, I think it's from the river to Graylock Street and from south side of Park Street, I think. It's basically downtown
Sure,
and High Street, yeah. Anyway,
well, hey, who knows?
that's what came up at the last meeting, and that's what I plan to do. Any comments, any advice?
Oh, good luck.
It's your advice, huh?
That's my advice.
Yeah, we got a lot of
No,
this.
you've had a great, you've been working very.
Not hard enough.
Well, maybe, but
Yeah,
About it. It's something that's done once every 20 years.
I
around
know,
here.
I know.
So-
And then sometimes it's even left on the shelf here. I mean, sometimes. 'Cause
well, yeah, I mean, that's.
I'm not telling, I'm not saying yours will be, but.
That's gonna, well, it will be. That's, the art of it is to find recommendations.
I know,
Other people will want to implement.
sure,
And there'll be a little social pressure to do that,
yes,
not very much, right? And so the boards, if we make something for these guys, if we say they should do X, if they've been thinking about doing X and maybe they were getting around to it a little while, maybe they'll do it sooner, because of the master plan.
yeah,
If they weren't thinking about doing X, it's going to be on the shelf, right? So
yeah,
it's
I
going
know.
to be, it's a matter of art for us. to
You're doing a great job, everybody is.
Okay.
I
That's
think
enough.
that's already beginning to happen with our ADU bylaw, expanding housing and.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And changing our opinions. It's so funny is talk about the pavement and parking spots, changing our
Oh,
thought process on that.
yeah. It was like I wanted maximum parking until about 6 months ago. And then I read that article and it's like, oh, yeah, there are a lot of hot, empty parking lots in the world, aren't there? Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Update Community Preservation Act, Peg.
Yes, it's on the website now, the application. So it looks like possibly there will be some by, the town meeting. People are looking at it anyways, and they're doing a great job too. Great.
So it's on the website now?
I think it is, yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, that's it?
That's it. I thought of you today though, but hours and hours we all put in for the 40R.
Yep.
I was sort of hoping you were there so you could take a bottle of Prosecco.
Oh, it's good that that's finally coming to fruition. Not sure.
Well,
a
it's
long road.
It is a
beginning
long
of fruition.
It's a beginning. It's a beginning.
There's 3 phases to it and most of the housing comes in phase
I
2.
know. I'll be happy with one.
Oh, how many units are there going to be in phase 1? Did he say?
55.
55 housing units? Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought I was told. 55, 80% affordable, 20% market rate.
Just in those old,
Pardon?
just in the old mill building? Because they aren't building phase
Well-
2 is the new apartment buildings.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that there's 3 phases. I will be happy with phase 1.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering how much housing is in phase 1.
Well, 55.
55, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
But anyways.
all right, one more motion.
Oh.
Adjourned.
Second it, sure. Roll call to adjourn. Peter?
Aye.
Dave?
I,
Peg?
No. I'm only kidding.
Conrad?
always pigs on their own.
I'm
Well,
only
Donovan,
kidding.
you're
I haven't
outvoted,
voted all
Peg,
night.
sorry.
I